request to postpone.
Call this meeting of the Siloam Springs Planning Commission for Tuesday, September 9th, 2025 to order. Roll call, please.
T. Williams,
Here.
Sally,
Here.
McKinney,
Here.
Sutton,
Here.
Renard,
Here.
K. Williams.
Here.
Thank you.
Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is approval of minutes from our meeting of August 12th, 2025. Commissioners, are there any corrections, comments, or questions from the meetings from August 12th? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next up is review and recommendation of the minutes from the workshop from July 2025. Are there any questions, comments, or corrections on the meetings from the workshop? If not, I'll accept a motion to forward to the board for approval the minutes from the workshop of July 29th.
So move.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Excuse me, who was the second? I heard 2 or 3. Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Next item was permit approvals, significant development permit SD 2508. The planning department have requested to table this, waiting on some additional information. Were there any comments or questions, or did you want to say something on this, Kyle?
Yes, we were just going to say that the review is progressing along nicely. There are just a couple of outstanding comments that we're unable to condition, and we are therefore requesting to table and are available for any questions.
Thanks, sir. Comments?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we table significant development permit SD 25-08. Is that what I'm?
Yes. Have a motion to table. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Sutton,
Yes.
Renard,
Yes.
K. Williams,
Yes.
T. Williams,
Yes.
Sally,
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes.
Thank you.
And that is tabled to our October 7th meeting of the Planning Commission.
It's October 14th, right? At October 14th.
Oh,
It's October 7th for the board.
sorry about that.
That's-
October 14th.
Yep.
I was just reading this request to table.
You're correct, Mr. Williams. It says to the board, but
board,
then it was
correct.
requested to table, so you're correct.
Thank you. Next up, repeal of the Municipal Code Chapters 53, 54, 78, 81, 87, and 102. Ben?
Ben Rhoads, Senior Planner, for the presentation you've been waiting for years.
You have your speech
It's
prepared.
finally here. So I will be covering, again, my name is Ben Rhoads, Senior Planner, and the proposal in front of you is the Unified Development Code, or UDC, and that is a collection of codes streamlined to be in one chapter of the code book. The update allows for the ease of use, having codes in one place, but staff has worked also, in addition to doing that, to modernizing these codes to correct various issues which we have identified over the years, which will better serve our community as we continue to grow. The 2040 comprehensive plan, that was the impetus for the update, and that largely came out of that plan. Upon review of the plan, 15 different goals were identified within the 0 to 5 year range, and these goals would be addressed through the adoption of the Unified Development Code. 2 actions need to occur. The first is to repeal the former chapters that comprise of the proposed UDC, and the second is to adopt the new Chapter 35. These chapters are consolidated into the proposed chapter, Development Signs and Planning. Because the chapter is larger than any other chapter in the code book, as you would imagine, we felt it necessary to break this chapter into 9 different titles or subjects that correspond to the former chapters in the code book that are proposed for repeal. So you see these listed on the slide there, 1 through 9. And this is unique to our code structure to have titles, but it does really help with the organization. And so, for example, Title 4, landscaping, is currently found in Chapter 53 of the code book, just for reference. Here you see the rough development process, starting with the initial draft that was sent to the board for review back on February 5th. Staff has worked for several years prior to this to develop early drafts of the code. We initially began with the sign code update and then expanded to the other code chapters once we adopted the comprehensive plan. I'm not going to go through every one of these steps, as you can see listed there, but you can see we're at the tail end of the process. Comments did officially close on August 22nd, and now we're at the formal review at the Planning Commission and then ultimately to the board as an ordinance. If recommended to move forward, this will go to the board agenda on October 7th, with a final 3rd reading following on November 4th. The ordinance will then go in effect by mid-December, but not impacting planning applications really till the start of January next year. And that's assuming that there's no tabling or anything like that. If there is, then obviously these dates will be pushed back later. As you've noticed in your packet, you'll see that you have version 4.0 in the watermark draft of the ordinance. This reflects the final version that's going before the Planning Commission. As you see in the slide, earlier versions and subversions were developed based off of public comments. We logged a total of 134 comments on the code. This includes comments coming from stakeholders, through online surveys, as well as a roundtable meeting. If the Planning Commission makes suggested further edits, and these will appear in version 5.0, which will go to the Board of Directors. So now I will transition to cover more of the specific code changes from each of the titles, so you guys kind of have an idea what was in each one of these titles that I mentioned earlier. It's important to note that what I highlight for the presentation is not comprehensive for the entire code, but merely some of the highlights from each of the titles, focusing mostly on the recent changes, but also covering some of the major changes that we've looked at over the past year. Generally, all titles we looked at a late change, generally all titles we looked at a late change to the title of the code, add signs to move more inclusive to what was included in Chapter 35. We added fees to the end of the one title, which also were shown within the code itself, but we did consolidate them into one place. We looked at addressing the role of city administrator, just referring to the administrator through the code, when most cases these duties are delegated to by the administrator to city staff, rather than always saying city administrator to say administrator, and that would refer to the administrator or anyone he designates, or he or she. Moving on into the Title I, as you see at the bottom there, we wanted to include some definitions for accessory dwelling units, cluster housing, and Charleston-styled housings. You see example of what a Charleston-style house would look like up on the top left. It's kind of a unique styled housing. And then moving on, continuing with Title I, we did include a new definition for the master street plan, touched on the level of service definition, as well as conflicting regulations within the code, changing from most restrictive to most recently approved as of writing the code. So that would take precedence if there should be a conflict between two different sections. Moving into Title II, we looked at the regulations that govern the operation of a planning commission. This is the former Chapter 78. We updated changing references to the old act from 1968 and replacing that with current state statutes, changing the annual report from July to January each year to be more consistent with the calendar year rather than the fiscal year. And also including additional information that would be included or mandated to be included in that report, such as how many permits you reviewed and things like that. Moving into Title III, this is the former Chapter 54 of our code, which deals with planning permits. One of the key things we changed is overhauling how the neighborhood meetings are conducted. The original idea was that these meetings would be a prerequisite for submitting a formal application to the city for larger developments such as big subdivisions or apartment or multifamily housing. However, upon further review, we decided it'd be easier to incorporate these as part of the UPD district, that's the Urban Plan Development District, as part of the pre-application meeting. Which would be open to the public, and we would allow sufficient notice for anyone desiring to attend those meetings that would be advanced to the formal application, so they can, members of the public can get questions answered from the developers and things of that nature. We removed requirements that plans had to be filed within 60 days. We found that that regulation is not actually really enforceable, because that is happening at the county level rather than the municipal level. We removed the definition of sound planning just because that is redundant with some of the other regulations in terms of the code use of neighborhood context and character. We updated time extensions for projects, clarifying that special use permits do run with the land. And on the bottom right there, probably one of the more significant changes in the code that came out of the board workshop, if you recall on July 29th, you guys just looked at the meeting minutes for that, was to address how permits such as significant development and preliminary plats are approved, that they would stop at the Planning Commission, but we would allow for an opportunity for the Board of Directors to appeal any decision of the Planning Commission should the board desire to do so within 10 days of approval of the plan of your decision as a planning commission. Since the board does meet twice a month, they meet on the first and third Tuesday, that would allow the board on that third Tuesday meeting to potentially recall or appeal a decision for a preliminary plat or large-scale development, significant development permit. So that was coming out of, again, that workshop, and so we included that as an option within the code based off of the feedback we received at that workshop. Moving into landscaping, this is Title IV. We updated the introduction to better explain the purpose of the title, like what are the purpose of the landscaping regulations. We looked at regulations pertaining to the, it's called diameter, DBH, diameter breadth height. We hadn't used that in the code, but that's actually the industry standard for caliper for trees. So we went ahead and changed that. Clarified landscaping standards that are subject to open space standards, such as green space buffers that are found in the zoning code. provided more flexibility as to when trees can be planted, such as that there are site conditions that have hardships or difficult times of the year to do plantings, that provide options for developers or builders, and required tree replacements for significant trees. Those are the large ones, the 100-year-old trees. If they are a certain amount of those removed, we have 7 of those that they have to replace those at a certain rate or pay a fee in lieu, which will be used for tree planting elsewhere in the city, such as in our parks. As I mentioned earlier, the sign code was the first thing that we looked at in the code updates. And it goes to the main reason was due to this Supreme Court decision, U.S. Supreme Court decision requiring content neutrality in all sign regulations. So a sign cannot be regulated based off of the content of what the sign says. So if it's a real estate sign, it says, I'm a real estate and I'm selling this house, that we can't regulate that differently than Joe's plumbing work. You know, that's put out in front of there because they're different types of signs, but you're looking at the content to determine how to regulate them. That's a no-no. You can't do that due to First Amendment issues. So that we found out that in our code, we have that a lot of places, and so we went through and kind of scrubbed that to take out any references to the sign that refers to what is on the sign for its regulations. A few additional highlights. We looked at modernizing these regulations with current sign technologies and styles, looking at regulating unique signs such as a sign walker. Those are the people that hold up a sign or wear a sign, which they are protected, by the way. You have to account for that. And organized the sign regulations by type and zoning district for ease of reference. Moving to Title 6, this is going back into land development. We looked at subdivisions of land. Here we added the new revised sidewalk ordinance to the title. Those of you that follow some of the board doings, they had a sidewalk ordinance from a few months back, and that has been incorporated into this title. We added a requirement for parkland to be included in subdivisions based off of the number of lots that are provided, so it's scalable or proportional to the development. So we changed also the minimum block length to 250 feet to accommodate some smaller subdivisions. We looked at some additional caveats as circumstances to require a wider utility easements must be shown for an immediate need and not based off of any type of prospective use or future use that's imagined on the property. It has to be based off of an actual need. We've added an exemption for pre-application meetings for local developers that are based in Siloam Springs or engineering firms. We clarified some of the requirements for plans, plan submittal requirements, and finally we updated our bond submission procedures. Moving into Title 7, which is the street design standards. This is a rather unique title of the code. It's actually a conversion of the current master street plan that is being, it's adopted not by code, but it's by reference, and it's completely being reworked as street design standards, mainly because the aspects in the master street plan document have regulatory implications, such as how wide a street needs to be, the height of a curb, things of that nature. So we needed to actually put that in the code of ordinances, not just as a separate document. We've updated the street cross sections to accommodate bicycle and pedestrian traffic in addition to motor vehicles. We added requirements for street trees, as you see in the picture there on the right to be included for each of the classifications of streets, and also guidelines for just proper spacing of the street trees versus the street lighting, so the two street lights and street trees are not fighting each other. We updated typical street cross sections, which I'm going to show you those in a second, so they're easier to read and provide more information to the code and provide greater flexibility. Finally, we included right-of-way dedications that they should only be required when the value of the land requested is proportional to the cost of development, and this is in keeping with federal case law, prevent takings of properties. And then here are some of those street cross sections. I think maybe some of you have seen these. Obviously, you've seen it in the packet, of course, but these are a reimagining of how they were looked at. So we're not looking at just the plan view looking down, but kind of at a perspective view, so you can kind of easily see the different streets. And of course, these include the landscaping as well as the sidewalks and the travel lanes with all the requisite widths and such, and the needed right-of-way width for each of the cross sections. So we have the principal arterial and minor arterial, and then we have a parkway that has the green strip in the middle. That's like a Progress Avenue here in town. The collector street, which is going down in scale, collecting, that feeds into the arterial streets. Those are usually the 3-lane streets. And then here on a neighborhood link, that we did want to have an little kind of offset picture on the right, top right here, to show how the on-street parking would work, because often we have complaints about the streets not working with parking, that people park too much on one side or the other and people can't get through the streets. So this is showing that you can do an option for parking on one side. That's a neighborhood link, and then the neighborhood street there in the middle, and then lastly the alleyway. So here is the penultimate title, which is Title 8, the zoning title. And there's a lot here, but I'll try to get through it quickly. We did add a provision to allow for the accessory dwelling units by right. This is a requirement of state code as recently updated this year. And accessory dwelling units is kind of like what you see in the picture there, just basically like a secondary dwelling that would be allowed on the property anywhere where single-family residential is permitted by right. This by term would also be permitted. We added provision. We added a new zone called the R5 zone that would be specifically for townhomes. So these are no longer lumped in with the multifamily. And we've had some issues recently where we zoned to R4 for townhomes, but then there's no way to control that actually turning into a 80-unit apartment complex because they're both allowed in R4. So this is going to allow more predictability in land use to ensure that townhomes are actually going to be built where we want townhomes to go. We created a new use unit for outdoor storage for merchandise businesses, such as those are businesses that have goods that are exclusively displayed outside. We made a specific use unit for that. We looked at adding notation. This came from one of the comments at the end of the R3 and R4 to advise everyone that there is a 0 lot line option. A lot of people have not taken us up on that or used it because it's kind of buried way else, somewhere else in the code. But there is a 0 lot line option in those zones under certain conditions, which means you can build right up to the property line. We created the new UPD zone. This is replacing the former PD zone. That's planned development. This allows for more customized style developments, as we've seen in the PD zones, but also using the building blocks of the current zoning rather than a preset standard that's in the PD. We addressed one of the comments we've added as we've included a waiver option, but those would be looked at on a case-by-case basis, whether it's warranted or not. Floor to area ratio, in some cases was removed. That's just another bulk and area standard, but we found that it became redundant with some of the other standards, so we took that out when it was not really needed. We updated the fence code to provide better clarity on when regulations kick in, such as when fences are built over easements. Continuing on with Title 8, with respect to fences again, we added additional zones, as you can see there, to address the different fence standards. Also, looking at allowing fences to go up to 12 feet in height in certain situations when there are incompatible land uses. So this could be to correct screening. We had been using the idea of the trees or the evergreen shrubs, but that could take up to 5 to 10 years to get into fruition. Some of them might die off, and the screening isn't really actually realized as intended. So this is going to be a more immediate way to address that issue, but only on a case-to-case situation as approved by the administrator. We added a section for parking lots that face onto residential structures. We've already seen this actually happen, where headlights of a vehicle shine into a neighboring home. So we've required evergreen shrubs or other methods to block headlights from going over to the neighboring property. As you can see, that's an example of that is the photo in the bottom right there on the screen. We relaxed some of the driveway standards for triplexes and quadplexes because they operate nearly like single-family residential in terms of their bulk and area and how they fit onto a street, rather than being within a designated area that would have parking around it, such as in a multifamily complex. We added provisions for compact car parking as well as bicycle parking, and for office and institutional retail buildings where this parking is required. Finally, we did codify the penalties and remedies section. Most of this is taken from the existing code, but we just added this as a new title, so it pertains to everything within Chapter 35 as a separate area. And with that, staff is recommending approval of the ordinance as presented, with a reminder that there would need to be 2 motions, one to repeal the code chapters, and then the second one to adopt the ordinance as presented. And with that, we're available for any new questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Could you just repeat all that, please?
It's a lot.
Are there any comments or questions from the audience?
Sure, might as well. Ron Homeyer, Civil Engineering, 701 South Mount Olive. This final version 4.0 here is a lot closer. I noticed that the typical street sections in his PowerPoint were very clear to read, but the ones that are online are still a bit fuzzy. So I'm just hoping that the clear versions make it into the final ordinance and whatever is posted online. I can read most of these, but there's a couple of them that are a little bit fuzzy.
Okay.
And then the only other real comment that is jumping out at me today is the lot coverages. You know, I made some suggestions that we consider increasing the maximum lot coverage on the residential uses, the single-family duplexes, things like that, because with the new addition of the accessory dwelling unit being by right, and even sometimes just storage unit buildings, if you've already maxed out the lot coverage with your house and your driveways and your sidewalks and all that, then you've effectively outlawed any accessory dwelling units because there's no room left over for those. And so I'm going by what I've been told by Mr. Caldwell, that there are instances, for duplexes in particular, where they have trouble with getting enough or having enough lot coverage allowed to be able to actually put the duplex and the driveways that are required, since you have to have a double driveway for each unit to have 2 parking spaces outside of the garages, to where there's going to be times where you're going to struggle to have enough lot coverage left over to add that accessory dwelling unit of any significant size. So I still think that needs to be evaluated. I know staff commented that they felt like it was not going to be received if they tried to increase lot coverages, even though they've been constantly decreasing over the last 10 to 15 years in 5 to 10% increments. So I just think you need to at least have the conversation about that one, but the rest of it looks pretty good at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Any other questions or comments from the audience? If not, commissioners, questions, comments, thoughts?
I'm curious if we have any feedback on Ron's comment there about auxiliary dwelling. Did you guys hear that?
Yes, so we reviewed that as a staff along with all Mr. Homeyer's comments, and as a staff, we just felt that it wasn't the right time to tackle something like that because that would really fundamentally change the view of a lot of neighborhoods because you're talking about increasing the amount of paving and building on a neighborhood lot. And it's not that we are opposed to that, but we just didn't want to include that at this time. So,
Would increasing something like that ahead of time, this is just a thought, would that make it where they could just cover that much more lot coverage in the front or on the front side and still not have room for additional buildings?
that was precisely one of our concerns is that builders tend to max out what they can build on a property when they have the opportunity to do so. So say we're at 40% lot coverage now. If we move to 45, we may very likely get building permits that are at 45, and now we're at the same issue where, you know, they're at the max. This particularly happens with the smaller lots. We don't really see that as much on the larger lot subdivisions, but the smaller lots, they try to fit the house, as big of house as they can on there. Of course, there's a 2-car garage, sidewalk, et cetera, and so it does get challenging. You know, it's something we can look at, but I mean, I would advise that there is a variance option available for anyone that does want to put an accessory dwelling unit and doesn't have the space. They can apply for a variance. So.
Thank you, Ben. That was just my thought. So.
And does a non-attached building count still? Like if it doesn't have a permanent foundation, if it's just a portable building?
The lot coverage, as we are actually revising, part of UDC is any impervious part of the lot. So that would be the part of the lot that would not allow water to seep into the ground over it. So if you had, you know, very loose decorative gravel, you know, maybe in a flower bed, things like that, that probably wouldn't count. But if it is compacted or you have a foundation or anything, driveways, that would count as the lot coverage. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I just think it's an amazing amount of work, and I think it's organized in such a much better way that it's easy. Nothing is easy if it's this many pages, but you can find things if you need to have a reference to know what you're looking for, why it's a certain way, and I just really can't compliment you enough on all the hard work that's gone into this, and all the feedback from Ron and folks who do all the drawings and present all the plats, et cetera. So I just think it's a huge step forward for our city, and even though it might not be perfect in some ways, it is a big, big improvement. So I just want to thank you for that.
Agreed. Any other questions or comments? If not, we do have to approach this in 2 sections. First would be a motion to recommend to the board repeal of municipal codes, chapters 53, 54, 78, 81, 87, and 102. Do I have a motion for that?
I would make a motion to repeal Municipal Code, Chapters 53, 54, 78, 81, 87, and 102.
I have a second.
Recommendation, or pass that recommendation along to the board.
I have a second.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Renard,
Yes.
K. Williams,
Yes.
T. Williams,
Yes.
Sally,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
Sutton.
Yes.
Thank you.
The recommendation to repeal passes will go to the board on October 7th, 2025. Next up is recommended the board for adoption of Municipal Code Chapter 35 as presented. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion, we adopt Municipal Code, Chapter 35, Development Signs and Zoning.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
K. Williams,
Yes.
T. Williams,
Yes.
Sally,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
Sutton,
Yes.
Renard.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion to adopt passes and will go to the board on October 7th, 2025 also. Next up, item H, easement acceptance. This one's to you, Kyle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have two items on this. We have a lot split, that's LS 2510, 2701 East Kenwood Street. And we also have an acceptance by separate instrument, and that's 204 East Meadowbrook Circle. Here is the lot split. And here is 204 East Meadowbrook Circle.
Commissioners, any questions, comments on the easement acceptance?
Can you go back to the lot split on Kenwood, please?
Yes, ma'am.
And this is in an effort to take care of issues that we didn't handle when they requested a change for those tiny homes, right? Out there, those small houses?
Yes, one of the things that was added was this sewer easement here, if you can
Right.
see the cursor.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? If not, do I have a motion to accept easements as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Easements acceptances pass. Board and staff approved permits?
Okay, so we have two board and staff approved permits for the September 16th Board of Directors meeting. The first is an annexation 25-01, and that's at Highway 59 and Bill Young Road. It'll be the second reading. And the second is a right-of-way and easement vacation, 2502 at 1113 East Ashley Street, and that'll also be the second reading.
Any questions or comments on the? We don't have to vote on those, right? That's just for information. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And then for staff announcements, we just wanted to make sure that everybody's aware the September 9th, 2025 Plan Development Review Committee meeting was canceled. And the October 14th, 2025 Board of Adjustment meeting is canceled.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
If there are no other comments or questions, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Stay.